What's up? Here's my thoughts on Chapter 3 of Master and Commander by Patrick O'Brian. So I guess I'll just go through the plot very quickly and then give some thoughts on the themes that ended up popping up. So it's the first day on the ship of the Sophie, and they're accompanying these merchant ships down the coast of Spain. And so the crew is still, it's everything's kind of new for this captain, and so he has to get the first muster, which is, I guess, all the crew come together on the deck, and they write down all the crew members in the logbook and make sure everybody has their particular duties assigned, and they also have to come up with who's going to keep watch at what times and all that, because there's so many crew on board that they actually can't all fit in the sleeping area, so they actually split it up to where only half the crew is actually inside of the ship at a time, because they have different hours. So yeah, after the muster, there's a scene where Mr. Dillon and Captain Aubrey are talking about an old battle where there was this ship that caught on fire, and Mr. Dillon was there. And they were talking about how this ship was on fire and they couldn't rescue barely any of the crew because there was these explosions and guns were firing off at random. But one of the crew members was actually one of the people saved from that ship. And speaking of crew members, that's something that we learn a lot about in this chapter, is kind of how in these old ships in the English Navy, the crew came from a lot of different backgrounds, which is pretty interesting. So, I mean, there's some crew members that don't even speak English, and some crew members had the choice of either going to jail or serving in the Navy, which is pretty interesting as well. Some volunteered. So, yeah, the job on this first day on ship is that Aubrey, Mr. Dillon, as well as, I believe, Mr. Ricketts, who's kind of in charge of the books and all that, they have to come up with the plan for assigning duties to this entire ship, which has like about 100 to 150 people, I guess. And it pretty much takes up their whole day, because some people have certain skills, some people, as I said, don't speak English or whatever. So yeah, that's just a mess. So after that, Maturin comes out on deck, and he meets James Dillon for the first time on ship, and it turns out that they actually recognize each other, because I guess they're both Irish, and there was this group called the United Irishmen that was at one point in open rebellion against England, and they wanted representative government for Ireland, and they also wanted to emancipate, I guess, like Catholics, Presbyterians, or something like that. But yeah, they were this political group that turned into open rebellion. It became a secret society at one point, and then eventually England overpowered them and has been hunting them down ever since. So this gives us an interesting background to Stephen Maturin's character. And he recognizes Dillon right away. And we're not exactly told if Dillon is certain that Maturin was a member, because as we'll later find out, they talk about it during dinner, and Maturin says that he gets mistaken for his brother or a cousin or something that was a member, and that they're scared to be betrayed by people who are members, because that the political group, the United Irishmen, started getting split up, and people were turning on each other and turning each other in to, I guess, England, bigger government or whatever. I guess they got put in jail or killed or whatever. So yeah, interesting background to Maturin. Next is another scene with Dillon, Aubrey, and Ricketts going over the logbooks and just spending hours and hours assigning people their watches and their duties. And there's also this funny scene of one of the crew members is taking Maturin on a tour of the ship, and so the first stop is they go all the way to the very top of this, I guess, this sail thing, and he's all confident at first, and then he quickly loses confidence when the scene is described as like the boat's shifting back and forth, and at one point he's even like over the water, and he's just terrified, and he's trying to ask questions just to get his mind off of the fact that he's terrified of how high he is. And then they go under the ship, and so we're kind of getting this introduction to the ship with Maturin. He's kind of like our, I guess our, because he's clueless about this whole Navy lifestyle, as are we. At least most of us are. So we kind of get introduced to all of the crew members and all the areas of the ship through Stephen Maturin's character. Yeah, so then after that, there's this dinner scene with Maturin, Dylan, and Aubrey. And Dylan talks about this battle he was in, where he was on this tiny ship with 14 crew members, and I guess they were attacked at some point by 3 other ships. So it was 14 of his crew members against 146 enemy crew. And they were somehow able to, by being aggressive, they went straight after the first ship, and they were able to attack that ship quickly, then take out another ship and actually sink it, and then the third ship ran away. It's just really interesting scene, which led Captain Aubrey to talk about, because he used to serve under Horatio Nelson, which is like this legendary naval captain in England. If you ever visit England, they always talk about Horatio Nelson, and he has like statues everywhere. So he's a historic figure, but also a very inspirational one. He kind of represents the spirit of the English Navy, I guess. And Aubrey talks about how Nelson said to never mind tactics, to actually just go straight at the enemy and just be aggressive. And so, yeah, another interesting background to Aubrey, that he was serving under Horatio Nelson. And then at the very, very end of the chapter, we have this episode where 2 of the crew members are talking about Captain Aubrey, saying that they're talking about Aubrey saying that being a good captain is more than just being able to maneuver a ship. You have to be really smart up here and have sound judgment. And so one of the guys says that if the officers back him up, that it'll be smooth sailing. But if they don't back him up, then he'll probably be out of the job as quickly as the last captain was out of the job. And so that gives us kind of this tension that's going to be happening, I suppose, in the next few chapters is, are the crew going to respect Captain Aubrey in his new leadership role? And is he going to be able to make sound decisions that inspire the crew to follow him? Yep, that's chapter 3. Stay tuned for chapter 4. Thanks.